Good morning, friends. My name is Ashutosh Garg. I work as a solution provider with Furnace Improvements. We have been in the business of revamping and fixing fire heaters for the last 25 years. This year, we celebrated our 25th anniversary, so we decided to conduct webinars every month for our customers and would-be customers. So today's session, we will be taking your questions. We had been doing sessions on number of topics in the past few months, and we have received a lot of questions from all of you. So my colleagues suggested why not do a Q&A session and talk about the problems being faced or issues being faced by our listeners. So what we are be going today is talking about the questions that you have sent us. We have received more than 50 registrations today. I thank all of you for your time and interest in furnace improvements. I will start the session with a brief introduction of myself. Most of you know me by now. So we will talk about, I'll talk a little bit about myself. I am a chemical engineer. I passed out of IIT Kanpur in 1974. And it's been almost 45 years since I've been working on fire heaters and combustion systems. I've worked with KT India, Engineers India, and KTI Corporation in US. In 1996, I got an opportunity to start something of my own. And it's an interesting story. 94, I was going with my friend or colleague in Texas City, and those of you who are familiar with Texas City in near Houston, we have almost 4 large refineries almost next door to each other. So you will see, if you take a drive, you will see a number of stacks. And I asked my friend, who is taking care of all these furnaces? And he said, nobody. So in 1996, when I got an opportunity to start something on my own, I said, why don't I start on working these heaters? And it's been very, very challenging 25 years. That's all I can tell you. We have revamped a number of furnaces, and every project brings new challenges. So our job is very, very interesting. That's what we have been doing at Furnace Improvements for living. So today we will have only questions and answers. We invited questions from all our participants. We had requested them to send us 3 questions, and we have selected popular questions from our attendees. You can still keep on sending questions, and my colleague can hopefully pass it on to me. I hope whether we will be able to answer all the questions today. If not, we will try to put these answers on our website and Facebook page and LinkedIn page. And we will have another webinar to answer the balance questions next month. So please be patient if I am not able to answer your question today. I will try my best. I have looked at all the questions, and all the questions are very good, interesting questions. I can only tell you we have received questions on tube metal temperature, both high and low. High tube metal temperature in furnaces and low tube metal temperature in air preheaters. So you can see we have a range of problems. We have high tube metal temperature, scaling, coking in furnaces. At the same time, we have corrosion in air preheaters. So we will talk uh, about as many problems as possible today. Uh, Let me tell you a bit about furnace improvements, as our team has worked very hard to develop these webinars. We started in 1996 in Sugar Land, Texas. It's been 25 years. In 2005, we opened an India office in Delhi, and now we are in Noida. We have a team of 35 engineers and designers in Noida. 2014, we opened a CFD office and in Pune, and we have a team of 4 engineers who are working dedicatedly on combustion and fluid flow problems. So what differentiates us from other heater vendors? We can do what the other vendors have been doing. We can build new heaters, but our focus is on revamping existing heaters. Our model is working directly with the end users, the customers like you, and we work directly like a doctor-patient relationship, and we try to solve your problems. 95% of our business is fixing old heaters, and we work with end users, as I said. So most of the time we are working with Philips, Valero, Citco, HP, CL, other things. Other thing which differentiates us from regular heater vendors is the name, our name. We are always looking for improvement. We are always looking for improvement in performance of fired heaters, looking for improvement in efficiency, looking for improvement in run length. Wherever we can find a scope for improvement, we will tell you. We will tell you we can improve the run length, we can improve the efficiency, we can put a bigger convection section. We don't replace in kind. You see, most of the people are asking for replacement in kind, and we say, hold on, we can put a larger convection section. We can put a different burners. We can help you, So that has been our approach. Another difference is we have a root cause analysis report. So we have a kind of a contrarian report approach. So anytime the heater is not working, that means something is wrong. And we assume and analyze the root cause of that problem, and we will try to solve it so that you won't have problem for the next 20 years. So this has been our approach. So please send us your questions. Please give us a chance to work on your heaters. I can assure you we will do our best to improve the efficiency, to improve the performance, to improve the run length of your uh, fired heaters. So with this introduction, I will start with your questions, what we have received. So the first question what we have received is, what is the best alternative to conventional air preheaters, especially in oil refining industry? So as you all know, air preheaters are used for improving the efficiency of fired heaters. We are recovering heat from the hot flue gases and transferring it to the combustion air. And the combustion air basically gets preheated, and then it transfers the heat into the flue gases, and it is absorbed in the radiant section. So this is the way the air preheaters work. Now, the alternatives are we can transfer the heat to the process, but there we need an approach, flue gas temperature approach. If we have it, we will definitely like to recover heat in the process, so that because that is a high value heat. The another system which is very popular for improving efficiency is waste heat boiler. We can generate steam. If your refinery is short on steam, needs steam boilers, then steam generation in convection section is also another way to a conventional air preheater. The only difference between the steam generation and air preheater is that you don't have a direct fuel savings because you are now transferring it to steam. So your firing rate will remain the same, but you will get steam. If you are interested in reducing the firing rate, then air preheater is the best option. So I hope I answered the question. I'm showing you a scheme, a typical air preheater scheme, where what we do is take the flue gases from the convection section at the exit of the convection section, send it to air preheater, recover the heat and transfer it to combustion air, and then send the cold flue gases through an ID fan to the stack. So this is the basic scheme. I'm assuming all of you are familiar with this. So air preheaters typically will get you 90 to 92% efficiency depending on the fuel and the sulfur content. So sulfur plays an important role, and we will talk about it in future questions. So here is the important question which I have received from a lot of colleagues in India. How to improve the operation of air preheater, how to resolve the issue of frequent air preheater leaks and cold and corrosion. So I'm assuming all of you are familiar with cold and corrosion. Let's see what happens. So if you have sulfur in your fuel gas or fuel oil, that sulfur gets oxidized during the combustion process to sulfur dioxide. Now, very small percentage of that sulfur dioxide gets converted into sulfur trioxide. Sulfur trioxide mixes with water vapor and forms dilute sulfuric acid. The second thing what it does is it raises the dew point of the flue gases. And what it means is the flue gas which would have condensed at, let's say, 120 degree F or 140 degree F, now starts condensing at 230, 250, 280 degree, depending on the sulfur content in the fuel. So this dilute sulfuric acid is one of the most corrosive component, and nothing can withstand it. No metal, including stainless steel, can withstand it. So how do we fight the cold and corrosion? So let's look at what happens when we have cold and corrosion taking place. In the air preheater, we start leaking combustion air into the flue gas. This cold and corrosion also fouls the ID fan. Because of the leakage, both ID and FD fans get overloaded, and the heater starts limiting in the capacity. We have had a few clients who resorted to shutting down the air preheater and working, running the heaters on natural draft to get the higher capacity. That type of operation is very inefficient, but if you have to process a higher quantity of charge, I believe that may be a way to go for short time. So the question is how to prevent cold end corrosion. So let's look at the typical approaches. If you want to avoid cold end corrosion, you have to keep the minimum metal temperature above the dew point. At least, I mean, typical industry recommendation is 25 degrees above the dew point. So if you have a flue gas dew point as 230 degree F, then the metal temperature should be 250 degree F. Now, in air preheaters, one side is flue gas, one side is combustion air. And a quick way of calculating the average tube metal temperature is to add the flue gas temperature and the air temperature and divide it by 2. So if you have 300 degree flue gas temperature, your combustion air temperature is 60 degrees, the chances are your metal temperature will be around 180 degrees. We can do a few things. We can put fins on one side and raise it, but I'm just giving you a typical thumb rule, So the question is, can we get a fired heater efficiency more than 92.5%? So, and we get this question very often. I want to improve my efficiency. So what can we do? So I thought about what is causing the formation of sulfur trioxide. Now, sulfur trioxide is formed when you have excess O2 or excess air. If you are firing fuel gas, you can go to 0% excess air or stoichiometric combustion. It may appear to be difficult, but it is possible. So if you have perfect combustion of air and fuel gas, you will have no SO3 formation. And that will lead to very low acid dew point. And once you have a lower acid dew point, you won't have the cold end corrosion. It will also lead to low NOx formation. And I'm thinking you can cool the flue gases down to 250 degree or so, It may improve your efficiency by 2, 3, 4% depending on where you are right now, But this is one way of attacking the problem. Target 0% excess air. I think if you have fuel gas firing, you can do it because you won't be you won't get any soot formation. I mean, if you have good burners, you should be able to target. You can try this and let me know how it works out. But I think this is one way to handle the problem. My colleague has done this calculations, and she has, depending on excess air, from 20% to all the way to 0.1%. We have seen we can go down by 20 degrees in tube metal temperature. And that means 40 degree in flue gas temperature because it's an average. So if you basically it will lead to at least 1% efficiency improvement if you go down to 0. So this is one way of improving the efficiency and taking care of acid dew point corrosion. Keep on reducing the excess O2 all the way to minimum, and it will help you avoid dew point corrosion. The second problem is because of the space limitations forced draft fans are put right next to the air preheater. And when you put forced draft fan right next to the air preheater, chances are that the flow to the air preheater is not uniform. The air preheater vendor assumes that you are giving him uniform airflow at the inlet, and that is what he is using for calculating the tube metal temperature. We have done CFD analysis of many uh, ducting, forced draft fan to air preheater ducting, and we have found that the flow to the air preheater is never uniform. You have low velocity and high velocity. And wherever you have high velocity, you have the cold end corrosion because the metal temperature will go down. So it is very, very important that you have a uniform flow at the air preheater inlet. I want to show you an example here. This is from one of the projects, and you can see the velocity in the existing air preheater inlet. And you see the ducting, how much skewed this ducting is. This is coming from the FD fan. It goes like this, and then there is a sudden turn. And you can see the low velocity range and high velocity profiles over here. And when we revamped the heater, the ducting, we ended up putting some vanes, more vanes over here and over here, and tried to improve it to the extent possible. So it is very, very important that you ensure uniform airflow at the air preheater inlet. And we can help you do the CFD modeling. We can help you analyze your airflow patterns from the fan. The fan discharge is never uniform. Fan is a centrifugal machine. So when the fan discharges into duct, it's a very skewed flow profile. So this will help you in, improving the flow pattern. CFD analysis, we can help you there. The other thing we can do, we suggest is use glass enamel coating at the cold end. If you have a plate type air preheaters, you can use glass enamel coatings. Also, you can use steam air preheaters. I strongly recommend preheating the air uh, using low pressure steam, or you can even use low pressure condensate. If you have waste condensate, even that will be sufficient to preheat the combustion air. So these are some of the things which will help you eliminate the cold end corrosion. I hope I have answered it. If not, please send me your doubts and we will try to clarify more on this issue. This is a project we did for Lyondell Houston refinery. They had two coker heaters and they were having cold end corrosion issues. In fact, one of the heaters, they had switched to natural draft, and we revamped their air preheat system, put new ID fan, put new FD fans, new plate type air preheater, steam air preheater. And after the revamp, the heater capacity increased, I think, by about 10%, 10 to 15%. So the project paid out in no time. Normally, the air preheater revamp projects do not pay that fast on just based on the efficiency. But if you are able to process crude, more crude, so then it pays out in a matter of months. So look it over and let us know if you need any help with your air preheating systems. We will be more than happy to help you. Another question we have received is about coking. I mean, coking is a very, very common issue in most of the fired heaters. And it basically comes from processing hydrocarbons. When we are processing hydrocarbons, we are bound to have cracking of hydrocarbons and coke deposits sooner or later. If you have a well-designed heater, we can extend the run length. But if you don't have a well-designed heater, or if you have flame impingement in your heaters, you will have coke formation very, very fast. So let us talk about coking, what happens in coking actually. So I want to tell you that think of coking as your biggest enemy. That will be the best way to approach this problem. That coking is your biggest enemy and we will do whatever it takes to avoid coking. If you look at on this slide, we are talking about tube metal temperature going up, pressure drop going up, firebox temperature or bridge wall temperature going up, firing rate going up, efficiency going down, charge rate starts limiting, and then ultimately we have to shut down the heater and clean the tubes. Most of the crude and vacuum heaters, I think I talked about in my last webinar, is they are only able to achieve maximum 2 to 3 years run length. And if they are designed properly, we can increase the run length to 4, 5, 6, 8 years. So we have done projects with 8 years crude and vacuum heaters for Citco in Lake Charles. And we can do the same thing for if you're putting up new crude and new vacuum heaters. We can design them for 8 years run length. So run length is a very, very important issue. So let's talk about vacuum heater a little bit over here. Basically, vacuum heater is heating the atmospheric tower bottoms. Most of the vacuum heaters are horizontal coils. Outlet temperature is in the range of 750 to 800 degrees. Outlet pressure in the range of 7 to 10 psi. High vaporization is needed for vacuum distillation, and steam injection plays a vital role. So we normally inject between 0.5 to 1.5% of steam in the coil to increase the vaporization, reduce the partial pressure, so that more vaporization will take place. So this is a very, very important heater in the refinery. And we will talk about how to increase the run length of these fired heaters. So the question what we have is how to decide the run length of the fired heater. We have also received questions on how to avoid minimize scaling on coil tubes. We have received questions about tube metal temperatures, short run length, frequent decoking. Also, I'll try to answer most of these questions today. So heater design, I think I've told many times in my webinar, and I may be repeating it, is a very old technology. 1939, Lobo and Evans paper, it's still being used today. And there, the assumption is uniform heat transfer from the flue gas side. Now, as I have said before, we have never seen a heater with a uniform heat transfer or uniform temperature, flue gas temperature in the fired heaters. So what we have been doing is we have been seeing what are the parameters affecting the run length. What are the parameters which will help you achieve better run length, lower tube metal temperatures. So what we have done is we have looked at several heaters. We have analyzed, I think, hundreds of heaters in the past 25 years. We have looked at many parameters and we came up with some of these parameters, which from the flue gas side, which have never been talked about before. Coil side parameters have been talked about. And I have listed 3 parameters. The first one is fluid mass velocity. Our recommendation is have the highest fluid mass velocity inside the coil. Whatever your pump allows, go for a high mass velocity. If you are planning to replace the pump for any reason, for increasing the head or increasing the capacity, go for a higher head and use more pressure drop across the heater and higher mass velocity. Also, you may want to look at reducing the average radiant heat transfer rate. The lower the better. So higher fluid velocity, higher pressure drop, and lower radiant heat transfer rate. These 3 parameters on the coil side will help you achieve longer run length, lower tube metal temperatures. If you're looking at tube metal temperatures, we have received many questions. One of the things to think about is the tube metal temperature should be 100 degrees Fahrenheit above the fluid temperature. So if your outlet temperature in a vacuum heater is 750, your tube metal temperature should be around 850. If you are seeing 1000, 1100, 1200, it is being caused by scales or by coke. Those are the only 2 factors which lend to higher tube metal temperatures. It cannot be the fluid, it cannot be the walls. So scales and coke is all what is causing the high tube metal temperatures. So on the coil side, I talked about these 3 parameters. On the fire side, I'm talking about 4 parameters over here. Heat release per burner, burner to tube clearance, burner to burner spacing, and burner air side pressure drop. So what we have found is the lower the heat release per burner, the longer will be the run length. What it means is use smaller burners or use more burners. Burner to tube clearance, very, very important parameter. If it's possible, go for high burner to tube clearance. API has found out after so many years that the clearances which they gave for low NOx burners are inadequate, and they have come out with new guidelines. Same thing, burner to burner spacing. I am a firm believer to put burners very close to each other. I want as many burners as possible in your heater if you really want high run length. Another thing we are talking about is burner air side pressure drop, and I want to use forced draft burners. Whenever we use forced draft burners, we will have 2-inch to 4-inch energy on the combustion air side, which will reduce the flame size and improve the mixing, and it will achieve uniform temperature to whatever extent on the fire side. So that's basically the recommendations. Excuse me. As I said, the most